Donald, did you hear? They're making another Captain Rit movie. They're reviving the franchise for the first time in 10 years.
Really? They're doing it again? This franchise is so old. It's on all the old-timey radios because it's an old-timey show. Where are all the new movies?
Haven't you heard, Donald? People don't want new movies anymore. They want the same IPs over and over again.
Is that what people want? Or what movie executives want? They're the ones greenlighting this all the time.
They both want it?
But you see it all the time with these movies. A franchise that was big in the 80s like Space Sharks or Rider Rangers, but hasn't really had much success since. What with attempt after attempt to revive the franchise with a brand new movie that keeps not doing great. But yet these new movies keep getting greenlit by executives who would rather bank on a property people know rather than something newer and riskier but could potentially break out and become a new classic.
Boy, someone has a stick up their butt. How are the movie rights for your Megazoic books selling right now?
Shut your face, David!
Hey, people like these movies for a reason. True, a lot of the new revivals don't do great, but every now and then you get one or two that make all the monies, and therefore executives want a piece of that pie and greenlight even more revival, reboot/sequel/rebootquel movies in the hopes of getting a taste of that sweet green moolah.
I suppose if people see him a lot, then people like them. Maybe this one will be fine. What's this new Captain Rit movie about?
Oh, it's really great, Donald. It's about these new folks who stumble upon Captain Rit's costume and treat it with the same reverence that the audience does after knowing it for all these decades. There's a lot of referential lines and visual callbacks, so the movie can be like, remember this? Remember this part from the movies you like? Remember? And then, despite them all pushing their late 80s, all the original cast members of the classic Captain Rit films return for one last one last thrilling experience, all the while fighting a classic villain and then teasing the start of a new trilogy with a bunch of other classic villains.
Oh, God! The cynicism. I can feel the corporate cynicism from a light year away. That was painful to hear.
Come on, it's not that bad.
It's so bad!
Don't you like the Jurassic World movies? Aren't they mostly the same thing?
Yeah, admittedly, they do suffer from a lot of the same trappings that these other rebootquels like The Force Awakens and Space Shark 17 do. But there's one very important key distinction between Jurassic World movies and those others.
Let me guess. It's because they have dinosaurs.
They have mother-flipping dinosaurs, David!
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to buy tickets for the premiere of this new Captain Rit movie as soon as they're out. Captain Rit's our friend, so we should support him. He's saved our collective readers plenty of times.
The real Captain Rit, sure. Not this dumb fictional movie old-time radio show version. I want to see a movie about the real Captain Rit. Like a depressing, Oscar-baity biopic.
Oh yeah, those always do well. They're all such huge blockbusters.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not about the money. All these franchises are just desperate attempts to keep the intellectual properties relevant and give movie executives safe bets for blockbuster success without much creative energy to expand or new risks to take. It's all so cynical and I hate it.
Gee, I miss the old Donald, the one who gleefully lapped this crap up with a crap-eating grin.
Well, that Donald is long dead, David. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go do a Jurassic World movie marathon while enjoying Jurassic World Evolution on my computer and Jurassic World the game on my smartphone and snuggling with my Jurassic World Blue the Velociraptor stuffed toy.
You just do that.
I will! Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Ritwit, the show that's an insurmountable load of floxinosinylapilification.
What a word, isn't it?
It is one of the longest. Take all your anti-disestablishmentarianisms and just shove them aside.
Well, I mean, you could also go with the made-up one, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That's the one everyone knows. And then the other one that everyone knows.
Because there's a song for it. That's exactly why.
You always sound precocious if you say it loud enough.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yep, remember that.
You know, it was really
the nostalgia critic version, which I'm not going to repeat here.
Yeah, don't repeat it on this one. It was always kind of a fun parlor trick for English class in Japanese elementary rooms. They'd ask like, well, what are some really big words that you know? How do they do like spelling things? Because in Japan with their system, they don't really have spelling tests so much as they have like kanji tests or whatever else.
So what's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in kanji?
I don't think there are kanji for that, sir, first off. Secondly, they were just fascinated every time I would spell it out in English. And as I was spelling it, I'd write it on the board, too, and it just keeps going and going and going.
What does it mean? I guess it's the thing that doesn't have a meaning.
It's stupendous, splendiferous, I guess.
Resplendent. No, that's a different thing.
Well, resplendent, it might be. I don't know.
It
It's
could be
a made-up word.
It can mean whatever you want it to mean, and we can write whatever meaning we want for it. As soon as I said right, your eyes immediately rolled
You
in the
are
back.
reaching.
Speaking of writing, or writing, as we should say, what we had whatever it.
Yeah, we're back in the third episode, so we're doing our usual segment here.
Yep.
Donald, please, what have you writ recently?
Okay, guys. I've done it. I finished the first draft of Teslanauts! Huzzah! Celebration! Happy dance! Hip hip hooray!
You know, if I had been prepared, I would have brought one of those stupid, like, poppers in and just, like...
Yeah! What's up? Happy feet! Wombo combo! Oh! 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 Where you at? Where you at? Oh! Oh! That's a reference to a Super Smash Brothers video. Anyway, sorry, I got real excited for a second.
Hey, at least I don't have to give you the bad eyes and the disappointed face. Because you did it!
I know, you don't have to point that finger at me. It's just like, oh, it still hurts when you did that. Even though I have nothing to be heard about. I did it. I finished the draft.
You did it.
Yeah. Now I'm on to editing and contacting other people about cover art and other promotional stuff. Once it's fully edited, I'll contact the marketing company and then read out a blurb here like I did for all the Megazoic books on the show. Until then, though, on to editing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of the fun part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
But how?
Yes, the exciting part is getting your story out.
Mm-hmm.
But the editing is where you refine it.
Right.
So that's really exciting. Like, as I was writing, this really didn't feel great. You can make it better.
I can, and I plan to. Via the power of editing. No one just craps out a novel and then immediately it's perfect. You gotta do the editing, you know?
I could think of a couple of authors who are regularly bestsellers that's most likely true. Not saying it's highly likely, just saying that it's most likely true.
Now,
that they poop out the novel and it still works because of their name.
well, a lot of times if you poop out the novel and like you're so big, you get protection from editors, but then you read it and like maybe you could have used some editors, you know.
My grandfather loved to read as well. I think it came by that, honestly, thanks to him and my mom. He always would make notes in the books that slipped the eyes of editors.
Well, that's
like
funny.
Spelling errors and stuff like that,
funny.
and mispunctuation. I don't usually make actual notes in the books anymore with like take a pen. You didn't do this, god dang it! But I always note them.
Right.
I just can't turn it off. I'm sorry. Anyway,
no, I get that, but yep. So that's what I've written. It's a pretty big thing. Now, watch the next couple of what we have written is like still editing.
Fair enough. I mean, it's too important to gloss over.
Right, exactly.
You know, especially if you want to make it so good that it's marketable.
Absolutely, yes. All right, so what about you?
Does learning more about being better in the job search count as writing or not?
Look, I know we're very nebulous and we stretch what the term writing means, but I'm going to say here definitively no.
Well, okay, that's good because I have something else to add instead. I have more progress to report on other ventures.
Okay, good.
Work continues on Starburst.
Yes.
Spectre
okay.
Sword.
There we go. That's more like writing
exactly.
or writing.
Exactly. And thinking up a concept for NaNoWriMo. I've never actually taken consecutive years off in my career doing it. Better get excited about a story sooner than later to ensure I start strong this year.
That's true. So September's coming up, and that means just 2 more months till Nano. Oh my God, this year. I'm glad this year's going by so fast because last year went by so slowly.
True.
So
in some ways more than others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, obviously that's on my mind. I don't want to get too far out over my skis with it because I don't want to start like, I want to write this already and it's not even, you know,
right.
how that goes. But anyway, I've also been looking over a couple of things, and these are things that people I happen to know that have written, and just, making my usual editorial comments on them as well.
Of course.
But that's based on what someone else wrote instead.
Speaking of which, I need you now that I finished Teslanauts, I need to just send it to you.
Yeah, I have a Google Drive link for it.
It's not updated because I stopped using Google.
Fair enough.
So I will send you the proper version. Right.
All right. Well, we'll get to that. Anyways, we are in the third episode talking about character endings,
Yes.
particularly relevant to when you're no longer going to use them after this point.
I mean,
not just
writing the character out.
and not just because the story's over. Obviously, that has to happen. But
Right.
like this is during the story.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thought:
Yes.
a way to get a character out of the fight without resorting to killing them off.
Yes.
Have them retire
Oh, that could work.
and live a quiet life outside the story. Now, whether there's fighting in your story or not, this is a nice way to give a character a happy ending while also writing them out of the story.
Right, of course.
But what are some of the benefits, the other benefits, that is, to writing a character out through retirement?
It lets the character go out in a way that's not depressing, but happy, in a way that's natural for the characters and gives them a well-earned break. It can keep the audience from wondering if this character can really last this long while kicking it in a real violent way at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, just imagine imagine the medical bills of a superhero, man. And after years on the job, just the wear and tear on your bones, man.
Well, and thinking also about all of the damage that incurs from their battles, there was a comic that literally called Damage Control, where they focused on the group of people
Oh, so
who
this is
clean
even
up after.
this isn't even physical damage. This is like damage to the cities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's obviously a whole lot of mental baggage. I want to say a recent DC event had a thing called Sanctuary, and it was designed as this facility for heroes to vent to licensed psychologists and
Yeah.
help,
Yes.
deal with the weight.
Oh, so that's mental damage then too.
Yeah, I mean, damage takes many forms, right?
Yeah, I guess that's
The interesting part about that is that Sanctuary was very abruptly destroyed thanks to some terrible event, which is the whole point of that.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
No. Somebody actually killed another hero.
Oh, well, that's not quite as...
using secret information. So there's a whole lot of a whodunit, figuring out what happened and why this was a thing.
Someone killed Shazam, the boy wonder.
Actually, it wasn't Shazam. I don't remember who the character was, but I know it wasn't Shazam.
Oh, that's
Anyway.
a shame. That's a shame. That little brat. No, I'm just kidding.
I liked the movie with
I
Zachary
haven't seen the
Levi.
movie. I still need to see the movie.
But for what it's worth, I'm kind of a Zachary Levi fanboy.
I do like Zachary Levi. Anyways, also, if you somewhat change your mind and want to bring this character back, you have the option of doing that now.
Yeah, because they're not off the board. They're just off the board. They're not in the ground.
Right. They're not quite taking a dirt nap just yet. They're just
taking a little rest at the
a
villa.
regular nap.
They're
Yeah.
just taking a little rest at the villa. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Just under the shade of a tree, and just chilling out,
And then all of a sudden they go up and he's got this peaceful, beatific look on his face and no pulse.
And then a carrier pigeon comes down and says, "We need you." The
And he
carrier pigeon,
apparently is roused from the dead. Anyway.
and the carrier pigeon's like, "I can talk. I don't have a message. I'm literally."
Well, the one problem that I can think of with retirement, I know this isn't the benefit, but the one problem with retirement is it truly an end? You mentioned you can still use them. We'll probably have more questions on that too, but
Right. Well, again, the example. I mean, I talk about this later in the episode too, but for Captain America in Avengers Endgame, I can see that is an end, in that because he time travels back to Peggy, and
lives out peacefully.
lives
with
out
her.
peacefully, and he's an old man, so even if he wanted to, he couldn't come back at this point. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, the thing that I think happens a lot is that retirements tend to be not final.
right,
It's
exactly.
almost like comic book death for non-comic books. I don't really feel like writing this character anymore, so they're going to have this nice retirement, but then they don't for whatever reason.
right.
Especially if they were, physically involved in fighting a lot. It's kind of hard. You can't take the Marine out of a Marine.
Exactly. You can't. It's like you can't take the fight out. They never really leave the fight. No one ever really comes home from war.
Yeah. But, I mean, other benefits, though. Talk about a reward for their hard life.
Yes, exactly.
Once our physical forms start becoming frail, dulled with age, it's much more pleasant to relax in the countryside and just watch the world turn from a place of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Not all career soldiers will choose this.
Yes.
The lust for battle raging bright. And those are the characters most likely to return to a conflict at the precise moment. With certain career paths, you arguably can't retire because you're constantly in demand for consultations or advice. That doesn't mean the character remains active. And they still provide a resource for your cast later.
Right, exactly.
You aren't denied their presence, but you can control how readily it comes back once this watershed decision is made. It's kind of comparable to a faucet.
Oh.
You pick how much you want to open the faucet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to say, all right, we're opening all the pipes. Or if you just are trying to get a trickle, you just kind of turn the knob a little bit. And
I'm imagining like the bath in the prefect in
the prefect bath
in Harry Potter, where it's just like all these different bubbles, all these different colors.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing that described in the book, but I'm such a failed fan of Harry Potter to say, but I've never actually seen that movie.
You've never seen Goblet of Fire?
Not the movie version.
Have you seen any of the other movies?
I saw the first 3.
Oh, so you haven't seen
But I haven't
Beyond...
seen the last 5.
Okay, so
That's
I'm
weird.
1 ahead of you.
Oh, okay.
Because I have seen Goblet of Fire. I have not seen anything beyond that. As soon as Umbridge comes in, I'm just like, I don't want to see Umbridge on the screen. I don't.
Well, she's
too much.
Is it that I watched 4 and 5 and didn't watch 6 and 7 part 2 and 7 and part 1? I don't remember anymore. For what it's worth, but I've seen pictures of Umbridge portrayed by the actress. So
and she does a great job because
she really makes you hate her.
You hate her.
You know that reminds me. There was something I was going to say about the last episode. Like the characters that you really love to hate. That might be a reason to keep writing them. Just because you love to hate them and they're there with the people you love to write.
I suppose. Personally, I'm glad that Dolores doesn't have much of a role. I like how I call it Dolores and not Umbridge. She's more often named.
I take umbrage with her.
I know. Well, I think that's the first time anyone made that joke. Do you suppose that's
why?
Do you suppose that's why she's named that?
No idea. What percentage of the time should you keep this arrow in your quiver and bring them back just in the nick of time for a climax, opposed to letting them live out la pace? Yes, feel free to read this as a "can I still use them technically?" question if you like.
Well, if they're retired, I'd say a very small percentage. Otherwise, their retirement becomes meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to bring them back, though, like, how long should you wait? A while. Like, a real long while. You need to keep them out of the fight for as long as possible if you want to return. If you want a possible return to have any sort of emotional impact.
Well, and the whole return thing. I'll read my answer and you'll get where I'm going with that. I mean, you can still use them if they're living, but honestly, I aim for taking this particular arrow out and stringing it less than 25% of the time. So 1 in every 4 retirements, maybe it's okay. It's too predictable as a possible Deus Ex Machina later. Especially if they're the type that they've got battle in their blood. Somebody went on bended knee and said, "We need you." And of course they come back at the perfect moment.
Right.
Which saves them from this otherwise inextricable situation they've gotten into.
Inextricable.
They can't extract themselves.
Oh, okay.
Nothing sinks a story's potential like being routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I don't like being so predictable with it,
Right.
But
we've talked about like status quo and other stuff in our previous episodes. But
just as a side note, I see nothing wrong with the main character still relying on them for a heart-to-heart.
Yeah. Well, then they're not really written out of the story, but...
They aren't, but you can go visit them and they're still retired.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't endanger their survival or chosen retirement, but also allows them to still impact the story you're writing without their consistent involvement.
It's true. Like, maybe you have an actor that
is so busy with other projects he can only show up once a
he still wants to keep going, but he can't be in every episode anymore.
Yeah, and obviously it's a little different retirement than the one that we're thinking of most of the way through here.
Mm-hmm.
However, more about retirements. We've been deliberately avoiding the other half of the well-worn question for this set so far, but since this method of writing a character out is usually considered the best or most accepted, again, writing them out, not finishing their arc.
Right.
Other than, of course, finishing it. So what are the detriments, if any, to writing out a character through retirement?
You can have the audience wonder why this character doesn't come back to help the heroes in certain situations. Like, if the world's at stake again and this guy's just chilling in his mountain cabin, that seems kind of selfish on his part.
But he deserved a retirement.
Well, it's like, we need you, though. Like, the world's always in danger. Captain America, why'd you go back in time? You were still so fair. Like, why did you travel back to be with Peggy? I get that he deserved his happy ending after so long, and look, we'd all like a piece of
He
Haley.
never got that freaking dance. Come on.
I know we'd all like a piece of Haley Atwell, but
some more than others.
but some more pieces than others, right? Yes. But come on, don't let John Walker take over, you dingus.
Well, yeah. If you've not seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I won't spoil what the name of that suddenly changes to at the end, go watch it on Disney Plus.
It turns to John Walker and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, totally.
uh,
Well, I mean, again, if one of the things that I notice about people aging is that their world tends to compact.
yes.
And so as the world's at stake, but their personal lives are not.
Right.
That does actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But yeah, it's a frequent complaint. Unfortunately, your very complaint is the problem why it's so predictable. Oh, they'll come up in the nick of time because you didn't write them into the ground, you wrote them off the chessboard.
You can't play, you're not on the board anymore.
Your piece is in timeout. You can't play another 5 turns. If this character is a fighter, which, I mean, a lot of the examples we're talking about tend to reflect on those people more. It reflects poorly that they elect to stay uninvolved when they could have that looming thunderhead,
Right.
If the character is a warrior, so much more commonly, they don't really get to retirement on their own circumstances.
Exactly.
So having someone known for bloodlust suddenly decide to just hang it up can be false to their character.
Hang up the axe, hang up the horned helmet, and just be like, I've raided enough villages for one day.
Unless there's more here under the hood than readers will know. Unless you do have some exposition about it. The primary detriment to having any retirement where they stay alive without sticking around is that the audience starts defaming them.
Yes.
Like they didn't earn the reputation because they're doing this now. I'm sorry, do you want to look at the career of a Hall of Fame athlete and look at only the last few years when they were not nearly so good anymore?
Right.
And say, oh, well, they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because. Like,
Right.
It's a silly argument.
No, I get that. And I get that, like, with, like, it's true with, like, not just, like, sports players, but also, like content creators. Like, you have people who seem really, really cool, but then their later work flounders, and you're like, were they really that great? It depends if they were like a one-hit wonder.
A lot of it's recency bias too with that.
Well, like the Wachowski siblings. Originally it was the Wachowski brothers, then it was the Wachowski siblings. Now they're sisters.
Oh,
so
okay, I'm not sure the phases.
So now they're sisters. When they did The Matrix, everyone's like, oh my gosh, they are so cool. We can't wait to see what they do next. Then they did the sequels to The Matrix, and it's like, well, no.
And then they
cool.
saw what came next.
And then they did Speed Racer, which I like.
I did like Speed Racer.
But then people were like, I don't know about that. And then they did Jupiter Ascending, and they did Cloud Atlas. And
again,
it's like maybe The Matrix was a fluke.
Or maybe creative taste is subjective, and you're not.
Oh no,
like
it definitely
is.
But
I mean, in going back to the close out my answer here, a 5-star general has earned a reputation and the privilege of enjoying his final days without the stress. Darn it!
And that's also like, again, this is different from retirement, but like when a person dies, we don't say, like when Michael Jackson died, for instance, we don't talk about like all the bad stuff he did the last decade. We talk about, man, Beat It was a great song, wasn't it? Like Moonwalker, Thriller, yeah.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, we tend to lionize people's good traits, but we shouldn't ignore the fact that they are human.
Exactly.
They do bad things, they do good things, and it's a matter of knowing which weighs more on the ledger, so to speak, regardless of their status in life. That said, what kind of retirements could you draw upon? Is it more, once a Marine, always a Marine, or time to rest this poor old mortal coil, or even something else?
Well, either they're too old for the fight, or too need to rest the poor old mortal coil. Your voice is a lot better than mine. Time to rest the poor old mortal coil. There we go. That was a little better. Okay. They're too obsessed with fighting and need to take a breather before they go insane.
Yeah.
Or they fought too long and just want to live a quiet life. There are a lot of options, basically.
Yeah, I will enumerate several of them, but that's a different story.
Yep. If the character's done, spent, what have you, then this is the way they're gonna go, and then there are a ton of ways to get them to this point. I'd argue the issue isn't so much the method, unless the method is truly terrible.
Suddenly, out of nowhere, they're like, you know what? Nah, I'm done.
Hang in the hat. Like,
the horned helmet will not be filled with oil anymore.
Take
It's
it
on
off
my wall.
Take it off the tie. I don't know what kind of person this is anymore. Putting up the plunger.
You know what? I'm done. Breaks the plunger over his knee.
It's like, I will not be a Mario Bro anymore.
They never use plungers that I can think of.
They are plumbers.
I know they are, but they
you're
never
right.
use them in the games, is what I'm saying.
Oh, Luigi uses a vacuum cleaner. And
That's a vacuum cleaner. It's
like,
not really a
Luigi's
plunger, even if
Mansion.
it has a similar function.
Why are they the Mario
mansion.
brothers when only one of them's named Mario?
They both have the last name Mario.
I thought that was just in the movie.
It's Mario, and Luigi Mario.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
that's dumb.
It is really dumb. I'm not saying it's brilliant, but...
Okay.
Well, I mean, reasons, whatever they are, the character's going to have a reason.
It's not the method it's the method. Method doesn't really matter. It's the reason why they retire that people care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the reason is bad, then the audience isn't going to like it. It really, truly has to be earned. So
even if a lot of that earning has not happened in the story itself, you get people who are later in their careers at the start of your narrative. Obviously, you don't have that time to illustrate what they've done before. But
Right.
when it comes to retirement, I think of a few different paths from the fork. Everybody's getting to this point, and they have to choose which one they want. There's retirement, air
Yes.
quotes,
Yes.
where the person stays around but insists on not being in the middle of everything anymore, even if they're like pulling strings from their gilded seat like a marionette.
Yeah.
The full-on retirement where they ride into the sunset and disappear for good because they want to be reclusive. The quasi-retirement where they are conveniently located in a stable spot anytime the writer wants to go back to that well. The
yes.
unfortunate retirement forced upon someone by circumstance.
Dishonorable discharge.
The surprise retirement that probably means we didn't understand the character very well, either your cast, you personally writing them without a good outline, or the circumstances surrounding the history that we didn't exactly plan. And the fulfilling retirement, where it feels earned and they promise they won't forget us, but don't plan on being too active in our lives anymore.
I get that.
The quasi-retirement is akin to the first, once a Marine, always a Marine phrase, and the full-on one matches the poor old mortal Coyle needs rest comment.
Right. Oh, man. A good example of a retirement, I think, that works really well. And I don't want to spoil too much because you haven't played these games. I keep telling you should play StarCraft 2 because the story for them is amazing.
Fair enough.
But do you mind if I say a little bit, or? I'll try to keep details vague.
Go for it.
So when Jim Raynor retires at the end,
I'm amazed he actually lived that long.
Yeah, what happens to him? It's really cool and really nice. But you're at this point, you're dude, you have so earned this. You have had the worst life.
Oh.
You have so many bad things have happened to you. You have gone through so much. You have moved heaven and earth to do all these things. Take your breather, man. And the way he does it, again, not going into specifics, it's pretty definitive that he's never coming back. So
I like being more definitive than being indefinite. And
Yeah.
it's oh, well, you just, leave the door open a crack.
Right. Well, no, it's the epilogue even says in text, Jim was never heard from again. So his badge was last seen on the bar at this thing. Again, not going into specifics. Now I'm sure you're curious, but
Not curious enough to okay, I gotta drop what I'm doing and watch the end of StarCraft 2.
they're free to play on it. On
I need a better computer for that.
Yeah. It's a 10-year-old game. Yeah, you probably do. So one of these days, I'll play through the campaigns with you. They're great. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, well, and the whole kick the door open comment, that honestly will probably bleed into our next episode, too. Well, we'll figure it out. Anyways, I think that we don't have anything else to add about retirements because, I mean, there
Let's
are so
retire
many.
this episode,
There are
shall we?
so many different, forms that retirement can take, but frankly, it's not terribly hard to figure out what they are. And depending on the character themselves, they'll choose that route.
There needs to be more retirements in these stories where the character literally retires. They turn 65, and they're all right.
I mean, I don't like writing those kind of stories, but for people who do, I'm sure it does happen.
Yeah, right. No, I get you. I get you. All right, well, that's it for this week, though. Retiring the episode. A huge thank you to our patrons so far, including Christina E.
Your support means the world to us.
Yes,
Please
thank you
check
for-
the link in the description if you're interested in contributing.
Patreon.com/Matthew Donald.
And we'd love to have your support.
Yes, you can contact us at mattd@MatthewDonaldCreator.com for any general questions to either co-host. Specify Matt D. If you say Matt D, specify which one.
No, I was going to say, do David or Donald rather than Matt D. Well, which one is it?
Hey,
Make
Matt-
us context it out.
Hey, Matt D, why are you so ugly? And I'm like, he's talking about you. And you're
No,
like, no, he's
you're
talking about you. And it's like, no, he's talking about you.
He's so truculent. And for more on that note. And for what it's worth, if you want to, share things that you've written with us. Hey, what have you written the last time since we did this segment?
Right, exactly.
And if we can share your content on the air, please let us know. We'd love to do that and respect your privacy if you want it.
Absolutely. You can, if you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at Matthew Don Creator on Facebook, at MatthewDon64 on Twitter, and MatthewDon64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because the number of times I've broken up and then gotten back together with my girlfriend. We're a real Ross and Rachel. Her and I, on again, off again. It's quite romantic.
The next thing you're
going to
say is it's like a pet instead of an actual female.
It's quite romantic, actually. I don't think it's indicative of any fundamental issues of the relationship at all.
Yeah, totally not.
It's perfectly healthy.
Totally not.
I mean, you've broken up with your girlfriend like 500 times, right?
500, yeah, sure, 500.
Yeah, broken up with her 500
times,
times, and I'll break up with her 500 more.
I don't even know what that's from, but okay.
It's 500 miles, walking 500 miles, and she will walk 500 miles.
Oh, okay, you're okay, got it.
I love explaining the joke, but to be fair, that was kind of obscure.
That was very obscure because you were kind of like mumbling in a rhythm that doesn't even really match the melody of the song. But anyway,
I don't know the melody of the song.
If I could fall 1,000 miles or something like that. And
I think it's a different song.
Carlson. Anyway, for what it's worth.
Yes.
You didn't mention that the girlfriend in question was actually human. It could be a blow-up doll for all I know. That's really not indicative of any problems.
It's not a blow-up doll. I can say that. It's a Lego doll. Anyway.
Well,
and by broken up, I mean taking the pieces off of her.
This was the Ritwit, where us two twits know nothing about love and apparently everything about ridding.
Yeah. I don't even know if everything about rating, honestly. But better than you, anyway.
We're better than you. Or so
all right, I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. Until next time, keep on writing the good write.
Keep on writing the good writ.
Stay safe and
wash your hands, wear a mask, get a vaccine.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. The How are the movie rights for your Megazoic books selling right now?
Shut your face, David!